Hi, my name is Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about my first 5-star read of 2024, Falling Animals by Sheila Armstrong. I am really hoping that this book gets longlisted for the Women's Prize 2024. As far as I can tell, it is eligible. It was first published in May 23 and it was originally written in English by a woman. So I am really hoping it gets a nod. I think this would be a really worthy winner of the prize because I absolutely loved it. I think this is a book that a lot of people would probably like, so I'm going to tell you about it and hopefully you'll want to pick it up. So it's set on the northwest coast of Ireland and it's about this small town and this community of people. The book opens up with a man who works for the council who has been sent to the beach to collect the remains of this dead seal, and that sort of sets the scene for some of the sort of desolation of the setting and the landscape. The book revolves around a body that has been found on the beach in this place. No one knows who this person is, no one knows like how he got there or what happened to him, how he died. But it's not a murder mystery. What the book does is it focuses on a range of different characters who live in this small town, and we get a chapter sort of from each of these characters and we see the ways in which they tangentially sort of relate to this man's body that's been found, but it's not about the crime, it's not about the mystery. So if you go into it thinking it's about that, you will be disappointed. And it's a very short book. It's just over 200 pages, but bearing in mind how many characters we sort of hear from, there's so much that's packed in here and it's so well written. I think to be able to sort of describe these characters and for them to be so vivid in so few words is a real skill. So we only hear from each of these characters once. It's told in sort of third person over the shoulder perspective, so it's not first person but it's close narrative, and we don't circle back to hear from any of the characters again, but in someone else's chapter you may come across a character who we've had earlier on. It might be a relation or someone they work with or something like that, and you'll recognise them from earlier on, so you do see sort of the connections between some of these people. But it's not about any one character, it's really about the community as a whole and the place as a whole. The book has a really great sense of place, and I think what it does really well is explore the sort of the meeting between like the land and the sea and that boundary, and it looks at sort of elements of abandonment in different ways. There is another, so that the dead man on the beach is sort of one of the central things that the narratives revolve around. There is another one as well, which is sort of mentioned in the blurb, to be honest, but I don't know if I should say it because I don't know if it's a bit of a spoiler if you don't read blurbs. So I'm not going to say what it is, but I think that's interesting to when you come to that part and you can think about sort of the connections between the two main aspects that the book does revolve around. The final chapter of this book, and this is spoiler free, the final chapter of this book was so moving. I thought it was beautiful. It was just remarkable. So good. When I finished this book, I felt, sometimes when you finish a book and you almost feel breathless and you just sort of, sort of sit there for a few minutes and in wonder at what you've read. That was the feeling I had from this book. So this book reminded me of a couple of different books. So I'm going to compare this to two books. It's not necessarily like either one of these books in isolation, but I feel like if you merged these two books together, this is what you'd get. So the first book I'm going to compare it to, and it put me in mind of this writer, is Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. Now that is the only Claire Keegan I've read, but it reminded me of her writing style in how she's able to say so much in so few words, how there's a sort of an understatedness to the language, but that really, really packs a punch. And I think Falling Animals does a similar thing. And the other book I'm going to compare it to is actually Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, which I do have a copy of here. In the way that it's sort of a polyphonic novel, the way you have a number of different characters that we hear from, and then you may have, you'll see some of the earlier characters pop up in other people's stories in different ways. You can see some connections between the characters. So I feel like if you merged sort of Claire Keegan's writing with a book like Girl, Woman, Other, I feel like you would get Falling Animals by Sheila Armstrong. Reading this book, to me, it felt a bit like there was like a bird's eye camera that would focus in on this one character, and then it would go out again, and then it would focus in on another character and go out again and focus in on another character. There are a couple of like small jumps in time, so it's not that everything's happening at the same time or even necessarily sort of consecutively, but that was how it felt for me, that zooming in and out, so you really get a full picture of the place in the community. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. I think you should check it out, and I really hope it gets listed for the Women's Prize. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye.